administration. Here to discuss it now is former Navy JAG Don Brown. He's also a candidate for the U.S. Senate from North Carolina. Don, thank you so much for being here. So it seems like with the anticipation of these Iran negotiations, and obviously, we've already seen the capture of Nicolas Maduro, but the Southern Command's sort of taken a little bit of a backseat to everything going on in the Middle East. But first of all, tell us about this ruling. It's been sort of, glossed over in the media.
Sure, Alexandra. Thanks for having me back. You and I have discussed several times since President Trump was sworn in about a year ago now, the reassertion of the Monroe Doctrine, whereby the United States will reinsert its influence in the Americas. And within the context of that, I think we're seeing that was Southern Command exerting more influence with the raid on, Maduro, and now this is within the context of the reassertion of the Monroe Doctrine. You recall President Trump coming in. He wants to take the Panama Canal back. He wants to take Greenland. And of course, I've mentioned and said several times he plays five-dimensional chess. And people get worried, oh, no, he's going to use military force. The last thing he wants to do is use military force, but he's using great economic pressure.
So tell us about how this all sort of came to pass, from the Jimmy Carter sort of handing over the oversight of the Panama Canal to the increasing Chinese influence that we've seen in the oversight down there. Just tell us a bit more about that.
Sure. Was 79, Jimmy Carter pushed through a treaty to relinquish the Panama Canal. It was highly controversial. The United States Senator who held the seat from North Carolina at the time that I'm running for a seat, Jesse Helms, opposed that vociferously. It was a mistake then. It was a mistake now. We ceded the Panama Canal back over. As Ronald Reagan said, Reagan made an issue of this back in 1980. He said, we bought it, we paid for it, and no tin-horn dictator should ever take it from us. That was a mantra of President Reagan's campaign in 1980. Carter turned it over anyway. And as that happened, the Panamanians were excited about it, but eventually over time, and especially as we go into the 90s with Democrat control and during the Biden years, China began to assert its influence more and more and more in our hemisphere, as did the Russians. And within the Panama Canal region, China wants to have the Silk Road. They want to control commerce around the world. They had two of their corporations come in and take control of the locks. And the locks, you see at the Pacific side, again at Balboa, and the Atlantic side of Cristobal, control the canal.
So why is this being seen as such a big win for the Trump administration? Can you kind of set the scene of what the commerce looks like down there in the Panama Canal and why it's so important for the United States to retain control of that?
That's right. The Panama Canal is the most vital waterway for commercial commerce, probably that plus the Strait of Malacca. But certainly in this hemisphere, it's the most vital port for international commerce in the world. That port has to be freely flowing. Plus our United States military, even though we can't get our carriers through there, we can still get most of our some 300 warships through that canal to move those ships quickly from the Pacific to the Atlantic. That includes attack submarines. It includes ballistic missile submarines. We would never move a boomer through there because we don't know anybody where they are. But the point of the matter is, it helps us strategically and it helps us economically and commercially as well.
Don Brown, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Alexandra.